Good afternoon. You're in the back room with Becky. It's Terrific Tuesday, and in some respects, it's a terrible Tuesday. We're talking about what the debt of this nation, and who we are indebted to. Now, yesterday I was talking to you about how we had to come together as a nation, and that this partisan type of mentality, Democrats ain't gonna participate with the Republicans. Republicans ain't going back whatever the Democrats do. We really don't have time for all that. And I said an analogy about how we owe so many people, and it's like, you really written America. We don't own America anymore. So I know people are always like, B, where did you get that from? And I'll tell you. This today comes from rediff.com, and it's a business website. This is what America owes India and others. With the United States government deadlocked in talks with the opposition over raising the debt ceiling, it is time to look at the U.S. debt issue. Like all governments, the United States borrows hard cash through Treasury bonds. It issues government securities that other countries and institutions buy. The U.S. national debt, almost $14.35 trillion, is owned mostly in the United States, and the $4.5 trillion foreign-owned debt is owned predominantly, like I said yesterday, by Asian economies. And this comes from The Guardian and Business Insider. First, let's take a look at how much America owes to India. And a lot of people did not realize, that all that outsourcing, and when you call in customer service, why do they all sound like they're in Bangladesh? Because they probably are. Here's the debt to India. In April 2011, we borrowed $42 billion. In January 2011, $41 billion. In June 2010, $35 billion. Change plus 18.9%. Now, India owns $42 billion worth of U.S. debt. And if you know anything about debts and mortgages and notes, it's like we got a VIG out there, Go look it up. People in the underworld know what I'm talking about when I say a VIG. That's when you go to a loan shark and borrow money, and they say, okay, I'm going to give you this 10 grand, but you better have 15 grand for me by the end of the week. Impossible, you say. People do it all the time. Okay, it says, Social Security Trust Fund. Here's where things get ugly. One thing I don't like about summer is bugs. Yes, you may see me. I'm not going crazy. Total holdings of U.S. Treasuries, $2.67 trillion. Percentage of U.S. debt that they own, 19%. Social Security Trust Fund owns 19% of the debt. So who owns the rest? The Federal Reserve owes the Fed 1.63 trillion in treasuries, much of which were bought for the quantitative easing program. That is 11.3% of U.S. debt, much more than China. The Fed owns 11%. Now we're going over into China. Total holdings of treasuries, 1.16 trillion. Percentage of U.S. debt that they own, 8%. China owns 8% of this national debt. So we might need to learn how to speak the language of India, because they have much more than I had imagined. I thought a lot of it was in China, but a lot of it is. India is an Asian nation as well. Total holdings of U.S. treasuries, 959.4 billion. Percent of U.S. debt. This is from the U.S. household, 6.6. U.S. households own 6.6% of the debt. Japan. Here's where it gets scary, people. 912.4 billion. Percentage of the U.S. debt that they own, 6.4%. Now, if you're not getting alarmed, you need to go back to this. Now, I'll put the link up for you so that you guys can see it. Because, I don't want you to think that I just grab stuff out of the air. State and local governments who borrowed money against Treasury notes, $506.1 billion. Percentage of U.S. debt that they own, 3.5%. State and local governments own 3.5% of the nation's debt. Private pension funds. These are your corporate sponsors. The ones I get on about all that money and why they can't just give up some of it. Total holds of U.S. Treasury, $504.7 billion. Percentage of U.S. debt that they own, 3.5%. Private pension funds own 3.5% of this nation's debt. The United Kingdom. Total holds of treasuries, $346.5 billion. They own 2.4%. Now, it's a long line. Money mutual fund, $337.7 billion, 2.4% of the national debt. State and local federal retirement fund, $320.9 billion. That's 2.2% of the debt. I could go on and on. The commercial banks, we ain't even going to go there. That's $301.8 billion for bailing out commercial banks. They own now 2.1% of the debt. Okay, you get my drift now. You know where I'm going with this. And I want to keep this brief so that you can see this. Go and check for yourself. All you got to do is go to any major search engine and type in the U.S. debt. Who do we owe? That's what I did. I went to Bing. I said, who does America owe? Okay, the largest percent of money that we owe out there is to Japan. Did you say Domarika talk? I'm not really, I can't get any more outraged than I already am, and it's not good for the blood pressure. But this is what I want you to know. When you get ready to go to the polls in 2012 or whenever your next local election is, you need to go armed with some information. And In the Back Room with Becky is going to keep feeding you all the way up to 2012 and past. I don't care if nothing but 5 people listen. That's 5 more people that got information that they didn't have before. What are we going to do about this debt? How do we fix it? It's so huge now. It's just like a woman who don't clean her house for 3 years. By the time you realize how far behind you are, you're so totally overwhelmed that you don't do anything. So, when you're looking at the prices at the pump and the prices in the grocery store and the prices of your taxes and how much your pension fund is costing you, and when they tell you that when you come out of your job at whatever age, if you're a little younger than me, ain't gonna be no Social Security unless y'all start something brand new. That's why I say create your own wealth. We have a lot to learn about Japan. Japan, they make mostly everything they use. It's very few things do they import. They do it to upper class that will import stuff. You can turn over anything made in Japan, made in China, made in Thailand, made in Taiwan. Because they're doing a lot of cheap labor. I think, they took a lot of money out of Mexico when they started doing these, changeovers, and we went to globalization. I'm not saying globalization is bad, but I'm saying in and of itself, it's not necessarily a good thing either. Because until we fix the problem at home, we have no business shopping for somebody else, with somebody else, spending money somewhere else. We need to keep some money in America. Buy American, work American, choose America. When you're out there selecting items to purchase, make up in your mind, do I really need this? Because see, all those electronics and stuff that we have now become so inundated with is because, advertising and marketing, baby, you're on the computer or watching TV 24/7, they're sending those messages. I gotta have that. I gotta have that. I need that. I gotta have that. I can't make it without that. I'm not important if I don't have that. So the consumerism in this country is out of hand. We are consuming and not really producing. The country's biggest cities for production and manufacturing are now sitting idle. Whole cities have just pretty much gone into ghost town status because the steel mills and the automobile industry and the lumber industry, the house building industry, The manufacturing of goods that we purchase on a daily basis, whether they're toys or towels or clothes or shoes, even. Them $200 shoes that you buy with Shaq and name on it. Sorry, Shaq, I know you probably don't have no shoes no more, but those expensive shoes, it's costing you more than you think, because really, they put it together for probably about $10 or $15, and they're making a 200% profit off of you. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. So I say, America, buck up. You in for a bumpy ride. This is Becky in the back room giving you some updated information about the debt and who we owe. And it's bad. Don't concentrate too much on the numbers. Concentrate on the fact that we got some bills to pay. And, you know, some of us are going to be riding buses because we can't drive to work because the gas too high. Some of us are going to have to be doing ramen noodles because we need to pay them bills because it don't make sense to sit up in the house with no lights, no gas, no water. And how you going to cook? We have to start remembering that freedom isn't free. And we live in this great country, so act like you have some ownership. Take responsibility. You're in the back room with Becky. As always, peace, love, and understanding.